This episode of Lore Drop is sponsored by Chad and Rachel Wolf. Thanks for listening from Kansas City, Mom and Dad. That was before 2025.
Yeah.
You wrote that before 2025. Ben is the Simpsons writers.
That's crazy.
That's
I'm just
insane.
kidding.
How
Cut that
dare
out,
you?
Cut that out. Just kidding.
Yeah.
We're just goofy little guys.
Goofy
Hello,
little guys.
guys. Don't listen to me. Hello. Welcome to Lore Drop, a reinvent podcast. I'm Abby, the executive director of Reinvent Productions.
I'm Ben. I'm the creative and artistic director.
I am James. I am the chairman of the board.
So this trio of people, this is either going to be a very intellectually stimulating conversation or super, super goofy. I don't think that there's going to be an in-between. So that's fine. Today, our lore drop is about Dustria City, a location in the Reinvent universe. But before we discuss this location, we must assign what animated trio we are. I threw out the idea the other day that we are Erwin, Levi, and Hanji. And it depends
who
on
is
the
who?
it depends on the day.
I
Who
feel
is
like
Hanji?
that's on a day when we're all like locked in.
Yes.
Today we're definitely more like Jean, Connie, and Sasha.
That's also fair. That's also fair.
Yeah.
Do we just? Is it?
Yeah.
We're just those
I
three.
feel like this
Yeah.
is a new one. I'm usually like whoever's left, but I feel like I'm definitely Jean right now.
Then you're Sasha because you just be eating.
There's a cookie right in front of me that I really want to eat. It's one of my mother-in-law's cookies, and it's so good, and I want to eat it so bad. But if I eat it, it'll go on the podcast. This is going really great. Episode 10. All right.
So hang on. So that leaves Connie for James because James is almost bald.
Today I'm a little more than almost
you
bald.
got- yeah.
I got a little hair today.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got hair.
This is because I'm lazy.
It's like season 4 Connie.
Yeah. Connie's good. Connie's a good
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, that's me.
Arguably. Sometimes.
Not most of the time.
Okay, so
I'm really glad that we edit these. Okay, Ben, tell us about Dustria City.
yeah. So Dustria City is a city in the Reinvent universe that is filled to the brim with organized crime, corruption, and many things supernatural. It is a place where a lot of stories end up taking place, and usually things don't go very well for the characters in those stories. That is sort of like the through line with Dustria City. Dustria City was formed in the year 1901 by a group of travelers when they discovered a mine which grows an unnaturally wide variety of gems and minerals. And then the city then flourished and grew around this mine and eventually expanded to the size of a whole megacity. Which, for reference, is that's like a population number that they have to meet to be qualified as a megacity. So that's things like New York City, Philadelphia, Dallas are like some of the big ones in the United States, and so it's roughly comparable to those sizes.
And to clarify, Dustria City is an island.
It is on an island.
On an island.
It is not the entirety of the island.
But it's on an
It
island.
is on an island off the western coast of Canada. Yeah.
Canada doesn't want nothing to do with them.
Do you know how populated Dustria City is?
I used to have the exact number, and then I lost it at some point. But Philadelphia seems like more of a
Dustria City equivalent.
yeah. As of the 2020 census, Philadelphia's population is 1.6 million, and so it's probably somewhere around there. Pretty big.
It's pretty big. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah. Around the 1.5 million mark.
The kind of city that would set itself on fire regardless of how a Super Bowl outcome would be. Philadelphia set itself on fire when they won the Super Bowl. It set itself on fire when they lost the Super Bowl.
I disagree. I don't think the general population of Dustria City would do that, but the Dustria City is always at risk of being set on fire because of the various things going on in the city.
I'm curious, like for you said they was discovered in 1901, and then And it was founded on them finding like a bunch of like gems.
Yeah, there's a specific mine on this island that gems and like minerals, much like plants, are like very specifically dispersed around the world and like where they are naturally occurring. And this has an unnatural concentration of that.
Interesting.
And so there's like metals and minerals and gemstones and stuff all growing in this mine.
Interesting. And I'm sure the more they discovered, the more they grew and like expanded into the city because they're valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's one of the main features that the city sort of grew around. And then one of the other big features is that they have, oddly enough, a very extensive and effective highway system that connects all 7 districts of the city very efficiently. So there's lots of efficient forms of travel throughout the city, whether via subway or a highway system. A lot of good public transportation. No airports, though.
No airports.
There's no airports. The only way to get to the city from out of the island is by sea.
Oh, I mean, makes fair.
Yeah.
Makes sense because island.
Yeah.
It had to be a very specific spot on the island to have a runway.
No, there's definitely room for one. I think they're just like, no, we just don't want one.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's very Dustria City coded.
Yeah. But so some sublocations and a little bit of like the layout of Dustria City. So Dustria City has 7 core districts that the city is split up into. There's the Central District, which is, as the name would suggest, in the center of Dustria City. Everything is sort of built out like a wheel around it. But this contains the Dustria City Central Museum, the City Hall, and the Dustria City News Network are all located here in the Central District. And then moving over to the east, there is a waterfront district. So that eastern edge is where the Western Sea is. And so the waterfront district has the docks, also the warehouses connected to the docks, and the city market down here as well. And then moving north then to the Mountainside District, this is where the Dustria City Prison is located, as well as the Gemstone Industries headquarters and an embassy as well. And then moving towards the west end, on the northwest end, is the Industrial District, and this contains a majority of the blue-collar workforces and everything. This is where the actual mine itself is located, and then all the relevant working industries, so like construction and all those things. They're all sort of housed here at one spot. And even further on the western side of the city is the Edge District, and this contains the main building for the Bandits Trade Union, as well as the Dustria City General Hospital, and lots of other small businesses are located in this part of the city. And then moving again around the circle, there's the Cultural District on the southeastern side of Dustria City, and this contains the Dustria City University, a location known as Theater Row, and then the Dustria City Metropolitan Hospital, which is like if the general hospital is like the public one, Metropolitan Hospital is the private one. That's the rich people one. And so then on the southern edge of the city is the residential district, also referred to by the population as the Kindle District. It is where all of the suburban neighborhoods are located. And so those are the main areas of Dustria City.
Why is it called the Kindle District?
That's sort of like a name that popped up. So there was previously an 8th district to Dustria City, even further south of the Kindle District. And that district was called the Sunlight District. And in that one, the thing there is that was like the farmland of Dustria City. It was all of their much more like rural areas and stuff like that. And there was a giant forest there as well. And there was one point that wildfire had started, and about half of the forest had burned down. And where it stopped was where the residential district was. That's the new border that happened there. So the entirety of that Sunlight District is now gone, and ironically enough, the half of the forest that stayed standing, that is now where a clan of vampires lives.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And so the Kindle District is also sort of like a ironic name, because that is sort of where like the Kindle line stopped in that wildfire.
Yeah, and they never tried to like fix it or go back or anything. They just abandoned it.
Yeah, because that was at a point when the Council of Three, the main executive body of Dustria City's government, was like, you know what, we don't even need that farmland anymore. We're doing pretty well on everything else that we've got going for us.
And vampires moved in, and they
vampires,
were like, we should.
well, vampires were there the whole time. But it was one of those that the vampires were like, okay, cool. We're keeping the rest of this forest though. Then
and this may spread into a larger question, but how much do vampires kind of impact Dustria City, like as a whole?
Oh, a lot. So the vampires, that like clan there to the south is led by the matriarch of Mariana Alphonse, and she is sort of like the head of that group, and she has always got some sort of scheme or plot going on in relationship to Dustria City. And so that is something that the city and law enforcement and Gemstone Industries are very aware of, that they are there, and it's sort of the over time, the relationship between the two entities of Dustria City and the Alphonse vampires is usually pretty rocky, but every now and then it goes through a pretty smooth patch.
Are the vampires within Dustria City like taking actions or doing things to like hurt the city, or are they just like trying to do something of their own volition that happens to like, I guess, like contradict or like go against what Dustria City's trying to do?
I don't know if I'd say that they're trying to hurt the city, but it's definitely not. So basically, the whole plan that they're trying to do is Mariana wants to extend her vampire family. And so her big goal is trying to turn the people of Dustria City entirely into vampires.
That's,
and to
that
have
would go against.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so that's she's very ambitious, and we'll get to her in her own episode, but she wants a vampire home base, essentially.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
it's bad, but also like it sounds pretty cool.
The concept,
Awesome.
cool.
But yeah, and so on to that as well. Some of the notable inhabitants of Dustria City include Cole Johnson, the present CEO of Gemstone Industries, and he is the third CEO in the company's history. Andrew Blood, Percy Variel, Richard Briggs, and many, many more.
And we will be talking more about Andrew Blood in particular, as well as other people like Maurice Williams in next week's episodes. So stick around for those.
That's cool to know, because I just made the connection to that. I assume Gemstone Industries is called Gemstone because gems stones.
Yeah. Yep. And that is that the initial person who like built up Gemstone Industries was Cole Johnson's grandfather, Conrad Johnson.
Nice. Conrad.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to be our next episode, is talking about Gemstone Industries.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good, cool.
But yeah, so Dustria City's first use in like the real world sense of things was in the Cataclysm campaign, the first D&D campaign that was run in the Reinvent universe, in both the year real world and the year in universe 2016. The party, which at the time consisted of Severica, Agriver, Navita Vega, and Reaper, journeyed to Dustria City in search of a missing Cadence agent named Ho Wu. And that was the first like kickoff there. And Dustria City is featured as the setting for the majority of the Cataclysm campaign, outside of one arc and a few individual stories here and there on the sides. And so that campaign really follows the journey of Dustria City as the sort of as Gemstone's plots to replace the DCPD with court spots comes about, in the whole power ring surge and everything. But there are some things that happen before Cataclysm. Specifically, starting in the year 2014 is when the power rings are released into the city, and that is when all of the bizarre things that happen, such as the growth of these superpowered individuals, starts attracting international attention, and a lot more crazy events happen here and there. Specifically, one that happens in the story of Incarnate, which, as I alluded to before, is when the Bastions and the Bandits sort of face off with each other, as well as the Alphonse vampires, as the vampires are trying to enact a plan to infect Dustria City's water supply with vampire blood.
Sorry, y'all. Good on them.
That's crazy.
Yep. That's one of the big stories that happens before Cataclysm, as well as a bunch of other small stories as well. And then after Cataclysm, we don't return to Dustria City until the stage play What If? And that is in the year 2031. So Cataclysm ends in 2018. What If picks up in 2031. And that is when we get the story of Percy becoming even more of a superhero. She was already a vigilante there for a little bit, but she gets her time manipulation powers thanks to her ring that Andrew Blood gave her, and then she is kicked out of Dustria City.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about What If in a couple weeks with James as well, doing one of our time capsule episodes where we talk about stage shows and other production projects that we've worked on. So we'll get more into her story in particular in that. So what do you think about Dustria City, James?
It's pretty cool. I knew that it had been that it was like the like nebulous of like kind of reinvent a little bit, where like it was the first like place that you guys kind of played in and stuff. I did not know like how detailed you kind of laid out the districts and stuff. That was cool to learn about. And there's other things that I'm kind of curious about and stuff, but I'm sure they're like topics for like, I want to ask more about Gemstone and like that sort of, because that seems to be kind of like the core kind of like entity within Dustria City that like just has a ton of story to unpack with it, which is really awesome. I'm super curious still about the vampires. That's kind of where my mind has been for the past 10 minutes.
And that brings up as well, and this is a thing that I forgot to write in the notes, but this is a fun fact about the origins of Dustria City that I don't even think I've told Abby at this point. But so the original reinvent stuff was followed, like Maurice was the first character that was written, Maurice Williams. And they were originally like in this like short story format of just like, oh, this happens in some nebulous city. It didn't really have a name really at first. And then when I was in 10th grade, in my world history class, my teacher had an assignment for us where we were supposed to design our idea of a like utopia city of some kind. And so it was just like she was like, do some research, figure out how like a city that you think would be the perfect like way for it to run, the layout of the city, what like the homes look like there, where it's located in the world, all these different things. And so at that point, I'd thought back to those stories and said to myself, ooh, let me take this opportunity to sort of expand on this a little bit. And so that is where I came up with the whole 7 districts thing. Was for this school assignment. Cool. And I remember very distinctly, I don't remember the circumstances. It was either that I turned it in a little bit late or that I was feeling not so great about doing my presentation in front of the class. So I did my presentation just for my teacher at her desk. And I remember she asked, because one of the things I said is like, oh yeah, there's this like pawn shop area and like a red light district or whatever. And that was in the time that I didn't know what a red light district was. I just said, oh, this is just a thing. And she was just like, maybe not.
Let's not do that, Ben.
But specifically in reference to the pawn shop, which would later become the Bandits Trade Union, was she had said is like a pawn shop is typically indicative of people who are falling on hard times financially. And I was like, ooh, I never thought of it that way. And so Dustria City then from there sort of morphed into this place where on the surface, it looks like everyone's having a great time and it looks like this perfect city to live in. But when you actually live there, it's kind of rough. And so, but yeah, that is the actual origin. And that's where I named it Dustria City. And I placed it, I decided that it would be located on the real world island of Labrador, which is off the west coast of Canada.
Oh, interesting.
But then when translating to the reinvent world, it became a fictional island of Kata Island, based off of the French word for 4.
What helped you come up with the name just Dustria, like just in general?
The brain cell was being shared there because I was like going to be. I had a similar question.
Yeah, it was one in my youth, in my high school days. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, this is an industrial place. That is the basic thing. How do I get a name from that? And so, well, I just take off the first and last syllables. Industrial turns into Dustria.
I don't think I realized it was as old as it is. I mean, compared to the rest of the real world, it's not old, but like.
But yeah, well, I mean, because all our stories with Dustria City have been like modern to like in the future. So Dustria City in my mind is always associated with like future tech and robots and like all that sort of stuff. And so to think of Dustria City as like a mining town at first is like kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and that's one as well, because we usually like internally we describe Dustria City as Gotham City without Batman. And specifically, one of the other things is that I think more importantly than not having Batman is that it's Gotham City without a Bruce Wayne. Where there is not a like benevolent billionaire in the city. The billionaire at the core of the city is a very evil man. And so that is the thing of like the person putting money into the city is doing it not for the betterment of the city, really. And that's also, there's one point, it was around the time the Cataclysm campaign was running that I had started writing a lot of early lore for Dustria City. And so it does have its own set of like urban legends and like folklore and stuff that goes with it as well.
Do you have one?
Yeah. 2 of the main ones that are the most developed are the first one, and this is sort of like a riff on like a typical urban legend thing of like, the idea of like the sewer gators. Well, in Dustria City, there is a legend of a sewer dragon, of a like dragon living in the sewers underneath of Dustria City.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And so that is one that comes up all the time, and it has yet to be confirmed or denied in story.
Ooh. What's their name for the dragon?
I think they just call it the sewer dragon.
Okay.
Could be like when Texas Tech had that green fire coming
Yeah, the green fire. Oh my gosh, what a throwback. The other one is
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
yeah.
are at Tech.
the other one is the legend of the blue-scaled wanderer. And that legend is one that's more across the entire island, because to the west of Dustria City on Cat Island is a desert that just takes up a good like fifth of this island. And so the legend goes that way back after the World War, that there was a blue-scaled traveler of some kind that came to the city, and like actually there was some sort of plague, a famine going on where like the fishing industry had really like dried up, that like all of the fishermen had been like they'd been unable to like bring in any more fish. And so this traveler came in and cast some sort of magic spell on the water, and then all of a sudden the fish population returned in force and was even more plentiful than it was before. And the legend goes that the traveler went around the whole city rejuvenating all of the nature areas of the city. So expanded the forest to the south, increased the height of the mountain ranges to the north, and then once it was done, continued westward into the desert, never to be seen again.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That one's great. That one's intense.
Yep. There is also the Dustria City has its own famous serial killer as well. In the 1940s.
I was about to say his name is Andrew Blood.
No, not Andrew Blood. In the 1940s, around the time that the DCPD was starting up, there was a series of murders that were happening down at the docks in the Waterside District. But these murders were only happening, they were only being discovered because when the shift from low tide to high tide happened, the bodies would wash ashore. And so this killer was dubbed the low tide killer. And so they were discovered after a few years, and they were brought in and arrested. But the details of their identity were never released to the public.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting. A mystery.
Yeah.
I love a good mystery.
But yeah, so there was a while back, I had written out a lot of this lore and a lot of other stuff of like the founding people and families of the city. The Blood family is also one that dates back to the origins of Dustria City as well, of being another like wealthy contributor to the city as a whole. As well as the Whites and the Andersons. And yeah, and there's also one of the big founding members of the city was the first like organized crime boss as well, Arvon Carroll.
Interesting.
So that as well, that organized crime factor to the city has been there since its inception.
It sounds like just like crime or like general kind of, nefarious doings or whatever has like always been at the heart of Dustria City. Like within its inception.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fascinating. And like it kind of like explains a lot as to why like throughout time or throughout these 100+ years or whatever, Dustria City still kind of like has not changed a ton as far as like its general sense of morality and whatnot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's even a point around the time that like there's a shift at some point, and it's around the time that Cole Johnson is CEO of Gemstone Industries. And that the underground, like the organized crime world, takes the shift from this idea of like honorable crime bosses. They say this in some like crime stories of like, oh, it used to be if you killed a man, you sent his wife flowers. That whole thing of like, oh, there was at least a little bit of like chivalry and honor to it, right, and respect for the other people, and it turned into just eventually this absolutely cutthroat world.
Here's a fun little exercise for all of us as we're all writers. If you right now, like let's say it's like we're playing a writing prompt game right now. If you could write a story in Dustria City pre 2014, what would you want to write about right now? And I can start because I have an idea. I would really like to write a story about a young Andrew Blood in terms of like how the school system works in Dustria City. Because I think that would be interesting to explore, because I know that when we were developing What If, we had talked about that like Percy goes to like a good school. Like it is a nice place to like get your education from, and it's something that like if you were doing a college entrance and they were like, oh, you went to a school in Dustria City, it's probably a smart kid. And I think it'd be interesting, even though Andrew and Percy are in two very different generations and two very different people. I think it'd be interesting to have either if it's just like a short story or like basically like a short season, like a limited series of Andrew Blood during his high school days, because at that point he had gone through a lot of his stuff, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. But I just think it'd be interesting to explore the education system.
My kind of first initial thing to write about, because we were just kind of discussing like just the history and core of it and stuff, I would kind of want to write almost like an early Dustria City, like in these like early 1900s, about these like certain families and whatnot, and how they kind of came, and maybe like, because I assume, I did not ask this question, were there people that lived there like pre like these gems being found?
Yeah, there were.
Then in that case, I would assume, being this, you know, a fictionalized version of Earth and like how people behave and stuff, is that these gems were discovered on this island, and a gang of people rushed over to this island and then just tried to like, you know, monopolize it and take advantage of whatever they had. And I think there's an interesting story there about like corruption and money and like what it does to people and all that sort of stuff. And then within that, you can incorporate these early families of, like all of them, and how they kind of like set early foundational stuff for themselves and how they kind of like did all that. I think there's something kind of interesting there too.
I want to build on that. The idea of like if there were like, I guess like indigenous group or like whoever was there before them, the idea that like they knew that this natural resource was there and like they were protecting it, and it's probably a sacred thing to them. That's such an interesting foil to how Rondor treated their natural resource. And we'll get into Rondor like as a whole in future episodes, and like the idea of Rondorium. Rondorium, the metal that is in Rondor, plays a big part in gemstone industries, like movement forward. Like the power rings are made with Rondorium. The quartz bots are made out of Rondorium. But having a difference between like looking at how Dustria City gets founded and how that natural resource is used, versus Rondor, which basically kind of hid itself away from the rest of the world because they knew how valuable their resource was, and kind of had to fight to keep people away from it.
Yeah, and I will say there's also that thing of like the indigenous peoples of this island, like they are still around, and that was in some of that early writing I did. They sort of like in the face of this growing city, they're on the north side of that mountain range now. Yeah, that is where they are restricted to now, basically.
Wouldn't it be crazy if the indigenous people were vampires?
They are not. I can confirm that. There are werewolves with them, but not vampires.
For you listeners out there, I'm gonna be making movie references a lot because that's what I end up doing. There's a movie kind of similar to this idea that came out a few years ago called Killers of the Flower Moon, which was about this group of indigenous people, and in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I want to say in present day Oklahoma-ish, they discovered that they were living on top of land where a ton of oil was, and they found it, and then, you know, started to become really wealthy and stuff. And so a ton of people came in and would like marry into the family, or like, you know, become really friends with the family. And then what ended up happening is really, really tragic, but they essentially started slowly but surely marrying people, and then they would mysteriously disappear or like die or whatever. And this happened over the span of like 25 years, to the point where like almost all of them vanished and whatnot. And then they just kept the wealth.
That's very Dustria City coded.
Yeah. Crazy. Sorry, that's a sad note.
and that's based off of like actual.
Yeah, it's a real thing that happened.
History.
It was one of the FBI's first big cases that they went into, was to investigate what was going on there.
Fascinating.
I think to get back to that question, what one that I would be very interested in, and it's kind of like a twofold thing. There's two stories that I'm interested in exploring. pre-2014, and both of which follow the character of Richard Briggs. The first one that I'd be interested in is when so in Cataclysm, there's a group called the Order of the Unbound, which is this group of like monks, martial artists who come to the city, and they are basically like attacking specific individuals to try and. There's a whole mysterious plot that the characters need to figure out what's going on here. But part of that is that the leader of the Order of the Unbound was someone that Chief Richard Briggs, before he was chief, that was one of his like big arrests, was that the first time the Order of the Unbound came to the city, Briggs was the officer who was in charge of like taking care of them. And so he was one of the people who like led the sort of task force in apprehending them that first time around and everything. But the other one I'm interested in, and this specifically goes hand in hand with DCPD stuff, would be when Briggs and Gregory Porter decided to make the Stand a thing, which is their group that they basically have this group that is like a fallback in case the DCPD fails, and they create this group in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm picturing this now of it's like they're in something equivalent to a Denny's. It's like because I remember it's like, okay, that takes place in the 90s, and immediately what I think of with 90s stuff is like diners.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, they're like sitting in a diner, and I think that like one of them like writes the Stand they're on a napkin or something, and it's like,
keep this kid.
We might need it someday. If I were writing that story, that'd be kind of the vibe. But I think that's really cool.
But yeah, and I think that's one of the other things that is very interesting about Dustria City, and we say this in some other episodes too, is that the city has a way of it's a tragic location to be from and in, because it's one that like good fortune never lasts long in this city. Every character who is here has some sort of big tragedy around them or related to them or regard them or is part of their arc in some way. That like there is an interesting thing of like, specifically we refer to when Andrew at the end of What If basically kicks Percy out of the city. And part of that he says in that story is, I'm doing this to save you, is essentially what he tells her. And that is one of those things of like, no, being like, you're a real hero, you're too good for the city. Because, spoiler alert, at the end of Cataclysm, in that storyline, the DCPD is dissolved, Gemstone takes over the city effectively, and it's like, on paper, the crime rate does go down, but there is a company in charge of everything. Like,
it's a story where the heroes lose.
Yeah.
So it's a story where the heroes lose, but it's not like losing the war. It's like but a major battle has been lost with it. And
I mean, well, I would say in a way it is losing the war. It's losing the first war over it.
Well, there's several wars that go on throughout this.
Yeah, but that as well, that like Dustria City is some place where, even in spite of that, like it's also filled with groups and like factions. There's very rarely any like individual operators around the city as well. So there's Gemstone Industries is a massive group in the city, as well as the DCPD. The Bandits are still a pretty big group, nowhere near as big as the other two, right? And then there's also like the Bastions, which is a group of 4. Which is very like, everything that happens in the city is like street level is how I like to describe it in terms of like the scale of like the powers and the importance and relevance and everything. But even inside of that, there's striations in power and influence amongst everyone. And that's some of the story that the Bandits experience as well, is being basically like the big dogs in the crime scene at the time the Cataclysm takes place, and them being unseated from that top position and seeing how that destabilizes everything else.
Scary. Scary. Dustria City, scary.
At what point, timeline-wise, does Dustria City become its own country, basically? Because it does break off from Canada at some point.
Yeah, that's shortly after Cataclysm. It's probably the early 2020s that happens.
I would assume if they dissolve any kind of like police or like, regional like enforcement agency or whatever, that like you would have to bypass like government to do that, because there's no way you could do that. I mean, Dustria City does seem to be super powerful and super influential, but it doesn't seem like you could circumvent those kind of like institutions without being like, no, we're done. We're not a part of you anymore.
Yeah.
This might be a topic that we talk about in future episodes, but we've mentioned the Council of Three in a couple of things. which is a very unique form of government.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a fictional
Mhm.
place, but do you want to talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
Council of Three?
The Council of Three is the executive branch of Dustria City's government. And that's to say that there are 3 individuals that are council members who are appointed via election throughout the city. And they
Election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
I was
the
gonna say.
thing, so the system of that, and this is also one where, and I think this was similarly part of that assignment of putting this together in high school, was like come up with how people are elected into office. And so it was like she was like, you can use a real world system or you can come up with one on your own. And so I thought this was pretty clever when I was writing this out at the time.
Uh-huh.
But essentially how it works is that anyone who's on the Council of Three, they serve one 10-year term, and then they can never serve again. And so the way that it works, though, is that to be elected into it, whenever the election cycle comes around, every district in Dustria City nominates one person who like lives and works in that district. They're like, this is the person who represents us best. And then you get a pool of 7 nominees. But only 3 of them can be on there, right? And so what happens then is that there are several rounds of voting, and it's what happens is that the people vote who is least fit to be on the Council of Three.
Interesting.
And so they
What a
eliminate.
bummer. It's like Survivor.
No, yeah. So it is
No, truly.
So the voting is more of a vote of least confidence thing. Of like, therefore, by default, the people who are left, the last 3 who are left, are most trusted throughout the city.
That's fascinating. I
Yeah.
always like when real life or fictional governments have like multiple rounds of voting, because I think that's really important.
Yes.
Because sometimes things change and whatnot and stuff. So yeah, no, that's real. Least confident is actually really interesting. Because that, like, just in my mind, like the way that you would like run a campaign would be so different.
Yeah.
Because then, like, I mean, a lot of that is present now, where you do a lot of like smears and like, you know, talking down and whatnot. But I think it's really fascinating in that system. Like, you would just do that more.
Yeah.
Like, exponentially
That
more.
it's just like all smear.
That it's just
campaigns.
all smear and like, you know, their head's small. You know, like it would get ridiculous.
And that.
No,
and
absolutely. Well, that's something that in Cataclysm, this is a spoiler for season 3. But there's an event, the Council of Three, 2 of the 3 members are assassinated. And there's 1 left, and it is midway through their term. And so they have to hold an emergency election to fill those last 2 spots. And what happens is that the people who are elected into office, one of them, his name is Sawari Kaze, and he is a restaurant owner in the waterfront district. And he's just a well-loved, locally owned family business, and everyone just loves him. And so they're like, yeah, no, he's fine, whatever. And the other one is the police commissioner, Suresh Kapoor. And so those are the 2 who are left to join them. But the thing is that when it was down to just 3 options left, the third option was Timothy Ilyashina, the boss of the bandits. And it was one that at that point
interesting.
they were like, well, we have someone who we basically all know is a criminal, and then well-beloved family business owner, and then
the
police.
bandit guy.
that's crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing as well, is that like, I think under other circumstances as well, like Timothy would have absolutely been elected in if it wasn't Suresh Kapoor, because Commissioner Kapoor is one. He's bound to a wheelchair. He, on that initial incident with the Order of the Unbound that I had mentioned before, that he was on that mission and basically like lost use of his legs because of it.
So he's basically a war hero.
Yeah, he's
So he is someone who is like he broke a streak of really bad police commissioners.
Gotcha.
basically.
So
I
he was
see.
like, and it's like one of those ones who like actually has put their body.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously law enforcement put their body on the lines, but like this is like a person who did that and then continued on doing it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that as well of part of that election cycle was that shortly after that is when the bandits are run out of the city entirely and make their way over to Pirates Bay. And the thing is that Roy Smith was coerced into working for Gemstone Industries. He was the last surviving council member of the assassination. And so the other 2, Sawari and Suresh, joined him. And Roy, when he agreed to work with Gemstone, was given the Sapphire Power Ring, which basically gives him the power of persuasion. And so he gives a command and the other person follows it. And so with that, they have their one person that Gemstone has the one person they need to be in charge of this. And the other two are well loved by the people. And Roy is the survivor of an assassination attempt. So the three of them, the public has a complete faith in their choices, but it's entirely Roy who's calling the shots among the three of them. And Gemstone Industries telling Roy what shots to call.
That's good.
And so that's an example of the tragedies.
That's really good. I like that story a lot. I can't wait to see that one or listen
Yeah.
to that one.
With the Council of Three, does the election cycle, well, in an ideal sense, where like two people aren't killed off in the middle of a term, like once you're elected in, does that start your 10 years? So like it's like staggered, or because like
So in that sense, they were elected to finish out that
10
that
years.
service.
Consecutive
Yeah.
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do like a 5 and then wait and then run
Yeah,
again
yeah.
to a 5.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing is that through that, like people are fully confident in them until 5 years later, and then all of a sudden they pass a vote that they're the councilmen for life now.
Oh, James took his glasses off.
No, it's okay.
Right.
I won't do it.
Because that timeline lines up because the assassination happens in 2016, and so 2021 is when that vote happens, and shortly after is when Dustria City declares itself an independent state.
Oh.
So yeah,
That's really funny. That was before 2025.
Yeah.
You wrote that before 2025. Ben is the Simpsons writers.
that's crazy.
That's
I'm just
insane.
kidding.
How
Cut that
dare
out,
you?
cut that out. Just kidding.
Yeah.
We're just goofy little guys.
Goofy
Sorry,
little
little
guys.
guys. Don't listen to me.
That's a really interesting storyline. I'd be interested to know more about that one.
Yeah.
later, though. That's my kind of jam.
Yeah.
Anytime he comes up, I hate Roy Smith.
Mhm.
I hate him. Anytime.
Yeah.
Just anytime.
Anytime.
Mostly because I wrote him to do very bad things.
Oh,
That's how I feel about Steve.
Yeah.
Hate Steve.
He's great. He's not, guys. He's really not.
Yeah.
He's a bad person. So Ben, as the creator of Dustria City, what are things that you are interested in exploring as we move forward in creating new productions and campaigns and stuff like that? And what are you interested in other people exploring?
The thing that's interesting to explore for me with Dustria City is how it is able to affect the rest of the world, even when it doesn't try to, because especially that whole thing with like the vampires towards the south, right? Of like they are constantly enacting plots and everything that to their own desires and wants and everything, right? And sometimes they have to work with groups that they are opposed to at other times, right? Sometimes they have to work with Gemstone Industries and with the bandits or whoever else it is, right? But also, like, I think in my brain, I would love for Dustria City to become a place where, like, a listener or an audience member hears that name and goes, oh, and we'll bleep that out in post. And goes like, oh man, nothing good is that. That's a red flag right there, right? It's like in Marvel whenever someone mentions Latveria, and you're like, oh dang, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea. And one of the things I'd love to explore more is the pantheon of the Thunderforged. Specifically that, so that's a pantheon made and it is fictional for the Reinvent universe. It is not based on a real world pantheon. But it is one where one of the gods in the pantheon, Caius, who is the god of knowledge, is like the core of his like base of followers is in Dustria City. And so seeing and exploring what ways that manifests is very interesting to me, because he also does have a lot to contribute to Cataclysm, sort of from the shadows here and there. He's still a very mysterious figure, being a deity who is on a vastly different playing field than the people who inhabit Dustria City. But I think that's something that I'd be interested in exploring more.
So that was our lore drop on Dustria City within the Reinvent universe. Before we sign off for the day, James, do you have any shout outs you want to do before we leave?
Yes. So I will be directing a show called The Language Archive at Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center. The dates for that show will be over 2 weekends. It will be over March 6th through the 8th and March 12th through the 14th. month. And we are about to begin rehearsal soon, and it's super exciting, and I hope to see all of you there.
Yeah, and that show is happening at Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center, the place where we are also housed as Reinvent Productions. So please consider coming out and supporting theater that isn't us, but is in our home spot, and a lot of people that we love and that our Reinvent contributors are working on, and particularly James, who's leading the helm of this beautiful show. We will put the link to tickets in our show notes, so if you're in the Lubbock area, please come out and see this show. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Lore Drop. Next episode, we will be talking about gemstone industries, something that we talked a little bit about in this episode, but we're going to go way more in depth with it in that one. So we hope that you will join us for that episode.
And remember,
Being fantastic starts with being a fan.
Reinvent Productions is proudly sponsored by 5 Points Corporation Lubbock and Savannah Rashida Photography, as well as our other wonderful community patrons. Our home base in Lubbock is Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center at 4228 Boston Avenue. For more information on how to support our 501c3 organization, you can check out our website at www.reinvent-productions.com. To directly support our upcoming audio drama, you can become a Lore Drop sponsor. For just $10, you can sponsor an episode of this podcast. All donations will go towards support for our upcoming production of Children of Destiny Cataclysm Season 1, which will begin releasing episodes June 22nd, 2026. Funds will go towards paying our wonderful voice actors and creative staff for their fantastic talent and time. We have over 30 artists globally working on this production, and we can't wait for you to hear it this summer. You can donate at givebutter.com/Lore Drop sponsor. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at reinvent.productions, as well as on Facebook and Twitch, where we stream gaming and a look behind the scenes on how we create our new works. Be sure to follow us to stay in the loop about upcoming productions, auditions, and more. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Lore Drop.